You're listening to Keith Engle, the host of TGI Sports Talk on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now, with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
Good morning, guys. Keith Engle here. TGI Sports Talk Sunday stream of consciousness. Let's kill this music. How we all doing this morning? We are still live one more time from the Celebrity Eclipse, heading back towards Florida to Fort Lauderdale, where we will dock tomorrow. Great to be here. Been a great 9 or 10 days. I don't know how long we've been here. Spent a couple days in Florida before we got on. We did the show live here last week. Hopefully that didn't go too badly. I know I had a couple of glitches. I know we're a couple minutes late today, but I went a little over on the Mac and Jack show. So welcome everybody watching this morning on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel. Get that channel downloaded, guys. Tons of great content there, 7 days a week, and much of the full day covered. Some repeats overnight, but a lot of live shows 7 days a week, including all of mine. Where else? The groups that allow us to share. John Gonzalez at the Sports Authorities. Greg Rawlings at America's Pastime, the Love for Baseball, and several other great groups, by the way. Guys, one of the best baseball groups out there, and he's got some good football groups. Just got in his fantasy baseball league for the second year in a row. Finished just out of the playoffs last year. I got to send Greg some money. Greg, if you're listening, I'll get you. I'll PayPal that money here as soon as I get back on land. Who else? Flo and the gang over at Bottom Line Sports. Great stuff they do there, and they broadcast all theirs live on Let's Talk Sports, where we're still good friends and able to share my content to their Facebook page. Ken Krause at Golf Bud Sports of All Sorts. Speaking of that, Let's Talk Sports, DDH, thumbs up to you, buddy. And our special thanks to SeatGeek, our sponsor for all of our shows here. What else? What else I was going to say in the open? Don't know. We'll talk a little bit about the week coming up. Still going to be a bit haphazard because of getting back to work, people coming in for work. So we'll be still kind of choppy throughout this week, but we'll talk about it. Lots to talk about. We got the KC Philly Super Bowl we can talk about, the game itself, the halftime, anything you want to talk about there. Is KC done? I'm telling you, they're not done. That was a bad matchup for them. Kelsey, maybe he is done. Wasn't happy about what I saw of some of him and some of his body language during that game, and I've stuck up for Kelsey a lot. Not happy about that. We got Kellen Moore, new head coach of the Cowboys, or not the Cowboys. He wishes the Saints. Aaron Rodgers and the Jets part ways, and Aaron Rodgers wanted to stay. What else? Cook wants to get paid $15 million once his contract expires next year, which would make him the highest paid running back in football. The Jets also want Devontae Adams to take a pay cut. College basketball, Tom Izzo, our pastors, Bob Knight for the top win total in Big Ten history. No small D there. Great battle between number one Auburn and Alabama last night. Some other news as we head towards March Madness. Brad Stevens, by the way, former Butler coach, been running the Celtics for a few years. His name is coming up as a replacement for Mike Woodson at Indiana. College football, Al Golden gets the Broyles Award as top assistant after he moves on to the Bengals. Can't read a lot of my other writing here, unfortunately. Sorry about that. Jim Tressel, is now the lieutenant governor of Ohio. Will he be the governor at some point? He was called the senator his entire coaching career because of the way he dressed on the sidelines. That's Matt Patricia going to Ohio State. The NBA, Draymond Green calls the game boring and lacking substance. The MVP discussion's out there. Why is Brunson not in the MVP discussion? Hall of Fame potential inductees, I believe, are Mello, Howard. This is just a few that I saw. Sue Bird, Maya Moore, Billy Donovan, and Mark Few as coaches, and some others. I don't mean to leave anybody out, but I couldn't write them all down. Pitchers and catchers have reported to spring training. Otani, the Yankees already have an injury. They have some controversy also with Stroman. Otani throws off the mound yesterday, 14 pitches without a problem. Jenks, the closer for the White Sox, sadly announces he has stomach cancer as well. We wish him the best in his recovery. A lot of players who come back from stuff, and hopefully he will be one of them. And Bregman signs with the Sox, or the Sox back. And also, and we'll get hopefully Jim Beringer on next week when we're back in the studio and talk about the Four Nations tournament. We had a lot of controversy yesterday as we got off to, the USA is now 2-0 in the finals, so it's a double elimination tournament. Canada could face them again, but again, the Canadian fans boo the national anthem, which I think is classless. I understand it. The fights that happened during the game, I don't think are related. The Canadian players, were really upset from what I could see in kind of reviewing this a little bit this morning. They didn't seem too happy about the fact that the fans were booing the national anthem. We'll see what happens when Canadian teams start getting booed here, how that goes over. But the hockey itself is exactly what people wanted. I think, there was some discussion on the Mac and Jack show about whether this should be like friendly competition or, look, they wanted to be some animosity. In my mind, and we'll talk to Jim about it next week when we may be reviewing the whole tournament then. I think they wanted something that compared to Russia against the Canadians back in the 70s, the Canada Cup, where there was a lot of animosity and a lot of physical play. And I think that's what they wanted here. And I think that's what they're getting, 3 fights in 9 seconds last night. And then we got some other stuff here we can talk about. I just want to give a quick rundown, but it's your show, guys, and we will let you run with it. I see a Joey Gallo comment. Good morning, Drew. How come my comments aren't coming up? There we go. Good morning. Good to have you with us, Drew. Let's see if they'll run the ship around another island, and the weather sucks here. I know. I've been watching my Ring camera all week. I got a chair sitting right in the middle of the steps. I have no idea why. I don't know if somebody put it there because it looks like my overhang from the porch probably it snowed last week after we left and then fell and froze. Maybe somebody put it there so none of the delivery people, which there won't be any coming. I thought it blew there, but it looks like it was placed there. I messaged my neighbor, but he didn't get back to me. So that tells you how good I am with my neighbors. Yo, Paul Spada, how are you, buddy? Good morning, Billy. That's a little too much for me to worry about right now. No offense. Landing spots for Rogers and Cousins. It's going to be interesting. Personally, I think Rogers may retire. And just here's the thing. Rogers wanted to come back. I think Rogers knows that the market for his services are not going to be that great. Rogers is talking a lot about the media. Rogers wanted to come back, but they told him he would be at every mandatory practice. He couldn't, just go off to a cave somewhere or go to some tropical island while they were in their early, whatever we call the first mandatory show up. Also, he was not going to be allowed to do anything other than team media during the course of the year. No Pat McAfee show, for instance. And with all that, Rogers was still going to come back. So I think he's going to retire. Let them talk about the Steelers. I don't think he'd get along well with Cousins. I think, I'm sorry, with Tomlin. I think Cousins might be an option for um, the Steelers. I think they're both going to be options for the Raiders. Um, the Titans need a quarterback, but that won't be Rodgers. Maybe Cousins. Um, Although I still think Will Levis will turn out to be a decent quarterback. It's just it's good if looks like this last year. Hopefully this season's good, guys. But last week looked to be pretty good. I didn't watch the whole show, but it looked to be pretty good. Good morning, CA. A blessed Sunday to you as well. It's funny. Well, he's not getting as much money overall. He's not getting $60 million. What was his contract, Drew? I didn't jot it down. And when I saw it, I mean, Judge is getting $60 million a year when you figure it out over 10 years. I don't know what he's getting this year. But total dollars, Bregman hasn't come even close to that. And so again, fill me in, please, because I didn't jot down the details of his contract. I believe it was 3 years and a decent amount. 3 years, I thought it was, well, maybe you're right. Maybe I saw 3 years, $180 million. That's great. If that's right, that's crazy, by the way. I like Bregman. He's a nice player. He's not Aaron Judge. And a lot of what Judge is getting is because of who he is, not just what he does. We talked about this. When you're the face of the franchise, you get more. So yeah, do me a favor and post those because I'm not sure what those details are now, and I don't know if he's signing the obligatory. Everybody who signs this late, we saw it with Pete Alonso, which I think we talked about last week. They're all 1 year contracts, whether they sign them for 2 years or 3 years. There'll be opt outs there. Bregman, whatever it is, I do think I feel like I read he had an opt out, but he's not going to be taking it. That's for sure. If he's getting anywhere close to what you're talking about. And I don't doubt you. I'm just not sure. Chris Afgrave with us this morning early up in Toronto or the Toronto area. Chris may move north of Toronto now. Where are you now? We don't see as much Chris as we used to, and we're really sad to see that. But we're glad to see you this morning. Hopefully things are going well in your world, Chris, and you can fill us in on what's taking up your time if you like. It's up to you. We don't want to pry. Anyways, the Tiger to play in the TGL after backing out of the Genesis this weekend. Invitational this weekend after the passing of his mom. So now both his parents are gone, which I don't know what I did, guys. Bear with me. Sorry. Get on the phone. Sometimes my fat fingers hit the wrong buttons and we pause for a little bit. So anyway, a nice crowd showing up early today in some of the different places, and I didn't share it at all. The preview of anybody. So, but anyway, our condolences go to Tiger. Think what you want of Tiger. It's never easy to lose a parent, right? Been there when I lost my mom. It was not easy, and still isn't. As anybody who has lost a parent knows. Getting old stinks. Joey Gallo. You're right, match made in hell. You want a guy who's just going to strike out, 200, well, depending on how bad the bats you give him, he's going to strike out a bunch of times and hit 15 or 20 homers. This team is bad enough, Drew, and you and I are going to do a preview show here in a few weeks. I don't know, middle of March, something like that. We'll do it. Things got to get solidified a lot more than they are now, but Joey Gallo could end up playing some for this team. Good God, that's how bad they are. Yeah, first 9 seconds, 3 fights. We knew this was going to be this matchup specifically was going to be chippy. We'll certainly get Jim Bering around next week to chat more about that. One thing, CA, I got thinking about this last night because I was thinking about All-Star games in general and how ridiculous it is that this weekend with no football. College basketball, the NBA doesn't really promote they should take this weekend and have wall-to-wall marquee games. College basketball, they had 2. They had 1 and 2 yesterday with Auburn and Alabama. That was kind of a fluke. promote some big non-conference games, whatever. Really get your sport in the spotlight and put them in the same time slots the NFL would have played in this weekend. Same with the NBA. You got your All Star game this weekend when you could promote your best teams and get a little bit of um, um, visibility heading into the stretch run for you before baseball gets into full gear, right? And it ties into the NHL. I wanted to ask you because All Star games need to go away. We see what they've done with the Pro Bowl, which they don't play. They play a flag football game, which was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. I swear to God, a couple of weeks ago or last weekend. I don't remember when it was. Um, but the NHL, are they playing an All Star game, or is this all taking place at the All Star break? Because this is a 2 week break for the Four Nations tournament. It's been very exciting so far. USA's 2-0 and into the title game. It's a double elimination. Correct me if I'm wrong there. Finland upset Sweden as well yesterday, which I think is um, a huge game. I don't think anybody's eliminated. So yeah, you might be able to fill me in there. The USA's on to the title game. They could still see Canada again. Certainly no love lost here. As I said, national anthem booed, classless. Canada is. They should be a little bit more. I think they forget sometimes how much they rely on this country for their survival should something happen. Just saying. You don't like, and this is more about who implied tariffs that they don't like, which, by the way, are not in effect yet. Just protect your border, and that'll go away. See, there's the captain, 950. I'm going to try to talk to him. He's very funny, by the way. We had a tsunami warning when there was an earthquake, I think, the first or second night here. And the next morning he came on and said the ship statuses were upright. We hope to keep it that way. So it was very funny. So he'll go on for a few minutes, and somebody can tell me if you can hear me. But it's Philson. I don't think anybody's got 2 losses yet. Canada still can come back. A lot of animosity here between the players. And my producer just showed up. So anyway, put those comments up while I'm waiting for the captain to tell me a joke at the end. So anyway, the first 9 seconds, yeah, 3 fights in 9 seconds. And to me, when we were talking on the Mac and Jack show earlier, the talk was, oh, it's disgusting. Who wants to see fighting? There's always fighting in hockey. They're promoting the series not to be some, international love fest. They're promoting it to be like the Canada Cup in the 70s, where Russia played the Canadians, and it was not friendly at all. So, give us any comments you got there, CA. And we're going to get, like I said, we'll get Jim Barringer on next Sunday to cover that. Somebody tell me if you can. I'm going to go to the bottom of my comments. Can you hear me? Somebody said, okay. Oh, he's leaving us his last broadcast. I think he's retiring, or they're taking us back and forth. I don't know. So, see, AC, good to have you with us this morning. Probably true, Paul. Oh, there we go. I think I missed this. Yes, but if Judge signed today, he'd be 75 billion. Is that a B? Well, I don't think it'd be 75 billion, but million. So you got a B in and then there. But I got to know what that contract is. I'll have to check it out afterwards. My apologies for not knowing. We'll try to do an MLB update Friday afternoon. Really? The time difference, guys, is what got us here. It's 9. It's almost 10 o'clock here. Where it's almost 9 o'clock where you guys are. So we happen to catch all the announcements, unfortunately. Landing spot for Carr. I do think Carr is going to go. I think Carr will be out. With Kellen Moore coming in there. Well, the question is, what are they going to do at quarterback? Do they think that? the guy, or are they going to go somewhere else? There's not a lot available in free agency. You got Cousins most likely, which I think would have to be a trade though. And you've got you're killing me. And you've got Darnold and a few other guys, but again, it's not great class. So Carr, he's not going back to the Raiders. So Tennessee, Jacksonville's not taking a quarterback. I mean, think about it. Go around the league. Right now, we know we probably have Rodgers, we probably have Cousins, we probably have Carr. We have Darnold. And then there'll be several others. Seattle could look for a quarterback, I suppose. Gino did not have a great season last year. I know his contract might be a little prohibitive to have not playing, but one of these guys could up in Seattle. 21 and 15, I think, last year. Touchdowns to interceptions. That's good. Is that woman's voice just like is grating on my head? I'm telling you. Can you hear me? Good. I don't know what the noise canceling effects are here. So anyway, landing spots for these guys. Go around the league. Buffalo, no quarterback. New England, no quarterback. Jets need a quarterback. I guess Carr, Cousins, I doubt Darnold are going to be in play for the Jets, depending on what they do draft-wise. I think whatever they do draft-wise, they need to find a better quarterback. Can Tyrod Taylor be that guy? I just don't know. Central, Steelers need a quarterback, so they'll all be in play there, probably. I don't see them giving Darnold a big contract, though. Bengals, no. Ravens, no. Browns, who's going to go there? Titans, yes. All in play. Again, I'm doing this by my head because I can't cheat with my screen. Who else? Indianapolis, baby. It's Richardson. They're ready to give up on Richardson. Jacksonville, no. Stein. What's his name? What's that guy's name, babe? Trevor Lawrence. Just signed Trevor Lawrence to a huge contract, and I give it up on him. In the South, that is the South. In the West, Raiders, no. Broncos, no. Chargers, no. Chiefs, though. Giants are going to be in play for all these guys. Doubtful they give Darnold a long-term contract as well, in my mind. Philly, no. Washington, no. Dallas, no. Lions, no. Vikings, no. They may re-sign Darnold, though, short-term. Possibly. Who else is over there? The Bears, no. And the Packers, no. Down south, Carolina, doubtful with Bryce Young starting to turn it around a bit. Tampa Bay, no. Atlanta, no. New Orleans could be in play for Darnold, I suppose. It's going to be interesting what Kellen Moore wants to do there. I don't know that he thinks Rattler's his guy, but we'll find out. Out west, San Francisco could be in play for a quarterback. Purdy's up for a bit payday, and when Purdy they had to lean heavy on Purdy last year with injuries, he did not really shine. So the luster may be off of Brock Purdy a little bit, at least as far as getting that big contract that quarterbacks at his age can expect. Who else is out there? Seattle, I said, could be in play with Gino, even though he's got a decent-sized contract to worry about. His play has slipped the last couple of years, even when he's healthy. I missed the whole division, I think, didn't I? Maybe I didn't. We'll talk more about that as we go along this morning. Good morning, John Gonzalez. As I said, John Gonzalez from the Sports Authority is one of the great groups out there. John's been a big supporter of this show since day one, basically. And we love John, the support that he's given to us, and we appreciate that, John, very much. No better group admin than John Gonzalez. Thank you, John. The Four Nations USA versus Canada, 3 fights in 9 seconds, which we just talked about, and the great It was a great game with a game 7 vibe. Yeah, it didn't see. I saw like I don't know about a minute of it walking through the casino. Um, Finished second yesterday, by the way, in the Texas Hold'em tournament I played in. 10 players. Um, just I was out maneuvered, man. I just was down too many chip count. Probably started when it was down to two of us, down about 3-1. Cut into it, maybe got 2-1, and my last gasp, I lost on a pair of fives. I was all in. I had ace 10 suited and had to go all in. With I had to look for a spot and I didn't get it. But so anyway, I saw about 10 seconds of the game, but it did everything I've seen this morning. Great intensity, as you said, game 7 type intensity. And this is what they want to go for. That's what they want in this tournament. The fights, look, it happens in hockey, not a big deal. I have a bigger problem with the booing of the national anthem, but whatever. I did not see the update on. I did not see Drew's update on Ian Anderson. Did you have one up there? I missed Drew. If you did, I apologize. Here we go. I don't see it. Drew, put it back up if you would. I don't think I missed it here. I may have missed it. I'm not sure where I may have missed it, but I missed it somewhere. I'd love to see an update on Ian Anderson, local product out of Shenandoah. Stafford's another guy I didn't put into the mix here. Great point, John. I think Stafford is in play for the Jets and the Giants myself. As probably and maybe elsewhere. Now Stafford's up in age. I think he's 37 years old. He's not going to come cheap. And I believe it's going to have to be a trade, so you have to give up capital to get him. Apparently, the Rams are not happy with him or his wife with the way they've gone public with their pay dispute. But you've got a seasoned quarterback with a Super Bowl ring. The thing is he going to go to the Giants with the lack of weapons that they have at the moment? Now, they do have neighbors, and they could work on that offensive line and the running game via the draft, but big turnaround needed there. Bregman, 40 million, 3 years. How's that? Oh, 40 million for each of 3 years with an opt out after each year. He's not opting out. If he's getting 40 million, by the way, I don't think I'm wrong unless I've had a brain fade. Judge is getting 60. So I'm not sure how that's the same money unless we're talking about what he's getting paid in year 1. He's not opting out of this contract, by the way. He's one of the few guys I am very confident in saying will not opt out after a year. There's Drew. Drew's got a comment on the same thing. 40 million for both is average. Oh, okay. All right. So the average, yeah, I'm doing the simple math because I'm from Perth. I can only do the simple math. 10 years at 600 million is 60 million a year to me. I know there's always deferred money and whatnot. To me, that's, I don't know. That just, can we say for salary cap purposes, it's the same amount for sure. But to me, Judges getting 60 million a year. And it's still a lot for Bregman, no matter how you look at it. And you guys can give me your opinion, but I see little chance that he's going to opt out ever in this contract, unless he has a Judge type season this next year. He's not opting out of this at all. Hang on one second. I wish I'd grabbed 2 coffees. Where was I? Yeah, I was just as I was telling you, AC. It plugged well. I had some really good. I won a couple of big pots on the river, and pulled out a couple of good hands. Chased one guy out who was obviously just trying to buy a couple of pots, and stayed with him. I was sitting with pocket aces one time, and he had no. That's all I finished with. But he had nothing. I think he had 2 twos or something. And he went all in, and I went all in with him, and chased him out. But I ended up in the final 2, so I got paid money, doubled my money. almost. I think. Is that right? Yeah, a little bit better than double my money. Um, but I had a chance. I had a couple. I wasn't getting any really good cards when I got down to just the two of us left, and she had a significant chip lead on me. I managed to cut into it a little bit, and then it got bigger and bigger, and I had one shot. I still had quite a bit of money, but she had a ton. Um, so she could have just chased me out, and she really wasn't. I don't know why she wasn't, but I mean, she could have gone in. She could have gone in every hand and not all in, but she didn't have to go all in to chase me out. Um, but I had one shot. I found my shot, ace 10 suited, and I couldn't. She wins with on the river with a five, pair of fives chasing me out of the tournament. I couldn't get anything to go with those. I couldn't get anything. I didn't get another red card. As I said, they were suited. I couldn't get a 10. I couldn't get an ace. Opt outs killing baseball. I don't necessarily. You're probably right, Paul. Here's my thing. These short term contracts, I don't have a problem with opt outs. If I'm getting a guy less than maybe market value or make good type contracts, and I'm signing them for 2 years, 3 years, I'm all right. But when guys want 8, 9, 10, 12 year contracts, I'm not giving them any opt outs. You can't have both. You can't have the long term security and a chance when you say your contract's obsolete in 2 years that you want to opt out and go back on the market. Not happening. If I'm signing these guys, and that's by the way the biggest opt out contract I think I've seen is that 40 million. But in general, I agree with your comment. I'm not a big fan of opt outs. And by the way, if you don't opt out, they're going to hold out anyway. These guys don't honor contracts at all. John sees Cousins to the Jets. I think the Jets are definitely in line for Cousins. I think, and again, I don't know. We got to hear more about what Kellen Moore's plans are in New Orleans. Whether he thinks Rattler is the guy or not. It's going to depend on what happens with these at least the top two guys in the draft. Um, who I don't think are necessarily going to be ready to play year one anyway. Um, that could have an effect on what happens here. I think Cousins is in play in for the Raiders as well. That and deferred payments. The deferred payment thing is even worse, right? When you look at what the Dodgers are doing to circumvent, now obviously he needs to have done a little of it, but nobody's done any of it the way the Dodgers have. And I don't know if um, I don't know if our Dodger fans are with us now or not, but they're obviously circumventing the salary cap big time because they're up to like $1.4 billion now in deferred monies, and I think their salary. I think their salary budget this year is like four. I'm sorry, maybe 370 or 380, which is still number one, and they're over the cap, but not what they would have to pay if they weren't deferring all this money. I was disappointed in the booing of the national anthem as well, but it happened in a Raptors game a couple of weeks ago, and I get it. They're unhappy with some of the threats that are being made towards them, but I think the Canadian fans ought to be a little more understanding of what their situation in the world is and who is going to be there when they need them. And again, as I said this on the Mac and Jack show too, I think a lot of it is, who has made these um, calls rather than exactly what's being done. $120 million 3 year contract. Thank you, Billy. I don't know where you for baseball, Billy. I think you're a Yankee fan, so I think you're all right here. $120 million 3 year contract with opt outs the first 2 years, which we talked about. There's one guy who's not opting out of anything. Michael Gott from across the pond, our number one UK fan at the moment. Not to diss any of our others who we haven't seen in a little bit, but Michael's been very consistent. We love having you with us. Good morning. U.S. soccer news. Is there soccer here in the U.S.? Sorry. Oh, I'm just kidding, Michael. I thought it was football, by the way. Um, New league given green light. Why do we need a new league? Is the league that's already playing doing lights out? Is MLS doing that well? New league, you're given a red light. USL to rival MLS. History repeats itself like it did with pro football back in 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s. It's pretty much every decade since the 70s. Oh, 60s, right. We go back to the AFL. AFL worked out already. We had a real merger. Didn't work out for the WFL, didn't work out for the USFL, it didn't work out for the new USFL, it didn't work out for XFL, it didn't work out. I can go on and on. And we still got games playing today. They're starting in like 6 weeks. Again, as I talked about with the NBA and college basketball, you got a huge void this weekend with no NFL. People are used to sitting down at the TVs at 1 o'clock, at 4 o'clock, and 8 o'clock, even Saturdays now, the last month. Why wouldn't just new leagues, if you want to really get some bang for your buck, pick it right up where the NFL left off and fill in those time spots, just like I said the NBA and college basketball should do with marquee games right through all those time spots. It's just, I don't get it. But they're getting paid a lot of money to run those leagues. I'm not. Bad loss for UConn yesterday, John, for sure. Seton Hall is not very good this year. UConn has been very, very up and down. Danny Hurley, who I know I like, and I'm pretty sure, John, you told me you did not like Danny or the Hurleys in general. His act does not look good when the team isn't playing well, for sure. And this is, I believe, this loss was the worst by like a two-time defending champion, or maybe even a defending champion. Yeah, too bad. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so bad loss for okay. That well, I'm not going anywhere. Bad loss for sure. UConn's going to make the tournament. They can get on a 3 week run. Actually, maybe I shouldn't say they're going to make the tournament. As I stand here right now, they're going to make the tournament. But if they keep losses like this, they're going to put them on the bubble. So doesn't play well. St. John's had a loss that we call a bad loss during the week, right? They got as high as number 9, first time they've been in the top 25 in 25 plus years. But I think their loss actually will help them, right? They had won 9, 10, maybe 10 games in a row. And I think that loss St. John's had will help them later on because it's hard if I personally don't want to see a team, and I'll root a little bit for St. John's. I like St. John's. I like Rick Pitino. It's tough if you're going to have a big run going into the tournament, go in with a 20-game winning streak or something, right? At least a lot of Canada's always hated Americans, especially American hockey players. I remember them booing the anthem my whole life. It's possible. I don't remember seeing it. It's entirely possible. It's happened before. AC. I can tell you all Canadians don't hate Americans because I work for a company that is the home base, corporate base is in Canada. So they have they have several businesses here in the U.S. and across the globe, and many U.S. employees, and it's a very good company to work for. So they don't all hate. Maybe you're talking about from a sports perspective. I think Canada forgets where their place in the world is, and when the shit hits the fan, who's going to have their back? Otani. I don't think any of. I'm sorry. Well, Otani can't be 70. Otani's not getting $70 million. Otani's getting like, isn't he getting like 7 million or a million? some crazily stupid number. The majority of his money is deferred. Soto, Wheeler 50. I'm surprised to see Wheeler third here. DeGrom, what a waste. Are you with us this morning, Alan? I tried to tell you about DeGrom. Snell 36, Cole 36. I don't get the Otani. Uh, I don't get the Otani number, Drew. You got to explain that one to me. I know 90% of his contract was deferred. We'll talk more about that when we have a Major League Baseball update. Probably, and just to kind of go back, not that this is necessarily relevant to this, as far as this week goes, well, we got a really big crowd here. Um, we are back in play during the week this week, but there'll be no college sports huddle Wednesday night because I've got back to work and I'm in the office because I've got visitors in town. So we'll probably be out to dinner that night. If for some reason I'm home early, we may do one on the fly. We'll see to catch up. Friday morning, we'll probably have encore shows because I think I'll be in the office until midday or so when I take them to the airport. We'll, if I'm back soon enough, which I would expect to be, I think we'll do a MLB update at 3 o'clock though. So we'll talk a lot more about this stuff as well, and I'll try to dig into that, Drew. But I'm not understanding the 70 million there, quite frankly. I thought it was taking place at the All Star game. Maybe that's what every country should do. All Star games are so bad. Don't play an MLB All Star game anymore. Those guys don't care. The NBA's All Star game is what, tonight in prime time, and we're going to watch a game with zero defense. Even I wouldn't even call what they do offense. Throw the ball down, the guy lays it up. Throw the ball other way, the guy dumps it. It'll be 195 to 190. Who wants to watch it? I wouldn't watch that. Ugh. Pro football, just do away in these skill positions. And listen, Andre Jackson, by the way, congratulations in the slam dunk competition yesterday. Amsterdam native Andre Jackson by way of UConn, Amsterdam, New York. John, upstate from you, about 3 hours. Um, Congratulations to him for getting in. Did not really do well in the competition. Did finish fourth, missed a dunk. Struggled a little bit, but still a nice showcase for a local boy who's playing very well with Milwaukee, by the way. And while I'm on the NBA, I'm going to go. I'll go on to your comments here in a second. While I'm on the NBA, I looked at some of the. I looked at some of the guys that are in running for the MVP, and you see the same names. We see Luca, we see um, Jokic, we see I can't think of the young kid Giannis Alexander. I can't remember his name right now. But why am I hearing nothing about Jalen Brunson? Why do we hear nothing about Carl Anthony Towns? Why shouldn't these guys? And again, if the Knicks step it up a little bit, I think they've got to get in the conversation. Jalen Brunson has performed so far above what the Knicks thought they were getting when they signed him as a free agent. Not just me, the team. So he's played very, very well, and I don't know why he's not in this MVP conversation, quite frankly. Um, and some interesting names up for the Basketball Hall of Fame, not the NBA Hall of Fame, guys. Basketball Hall of Fame. But worst contract ever, Anthony Rondon for sure. How many games has he played? About 5 games. Feels like it. So not, and he's if I believe I saw Drew, and again we'll catch up on the stuff when we get back to the MLB update. But I believe I saw that he's out for the year. This guy's either injured or he doesn't even want to play. He's made it clear I don't even like the game I play. I hate my job. Well, then how about you give the money back and go away and I don't know, deliver papers or sling some burgers at Burger King or something. Anthony Rendon, this is one of the, and he, He doesn't even strike me as a very a guy with much character either. By the way, right? He's paying you all this money, 5 years, $35 million. I'm sorry, 7 years, $35 million, and you can't even pretend you like your job, but you love it every 2 weeks on payday. Thank you. That was earlier. Thank you for that, Paul. Rumor: Lawrence to the Steelers. That um. Listen, I'm not going to say no way, right? We get new leadership in Jacksonville. He's got a big contract. I don't see the Steelers taking on that contract. Number one, um, I don't think you're going to get him for a song. So I don't know if they're going to give up draft capital in a trade. I think they're more likely to sign a free agent. Um, I think it's also likely that either more likely Fields or Wilson comes back for a year. But Lawrence would be interesting if the Steelers really want to try to set themselves up for the future, and maybe Trevor Lawrence um, needs a change of scenery. I think it was John Gonzalez who pointed out to me a few weeks ago that um, who was it? Daniel Jones and Trevor Lawrence's numbers for their first 4 or 5 years were very, very similar, and I was shocked to see it. He's had really one good season and one playoff victory led him from a big deficit to winning. Um, and maybe a change of scenery would help Trevor Lawrence. I still think he can be a player in this league. Shador Sanders is mostly hype, John, for sure. He does have some. I think Cam Ward overall will be a better quarterback. Just going to talk about these two guys, but they're both going to be drafted well before they should be. Right? To me, Cam Ward back in the first round at best. And again, I'm not talking about teams are going to draft based on need. Right? These are not going to be franchise making players. Shador Sanders should be probably back in the second round, but they're going to get drafted in the first round unless something crazy happens, and it has in the past. Remember, Aaron Rodgers was predicted to go in the top five, and he went in the 20s. Um, but Shooter Sanders, I mean, he does some things well. I think he's more accurate than Cam Ward. I think long term, Cam Ward would be the better player. He's got to work on some footwork things. He's got to work on his getting rid of the football a little sooner. Um, got to work on his accuracy a little bit. He's a great dynamic player, and he's much better. Will be much better than Shooter Sanders. And I think Shooter Sanders probably at best is going to become a clipboard holder in the NFL. He's certainly not going to be ready to play year one, if ever. I don't think either one of these guys are going to step in and make a difference. Put a bin over, Michael. Put a bin over the speakers, keep or cut the wires off for the captain's announcement. The captain, I'll tell you, really been a funny guy. He's Greek. He looks young, but you get closer, he's probably even 50. He's been doing this a long time, worked for Celebrity for a long time. He's very, very funny, very funny. All of his, a lot of times you get on these ships and the captains are so droll. But he has a little levity. I think I said at the top of the show, I know there's more people here now, but there was a bad earthquake, and we weren't anywhere near in the middle of the ocean near Grand Cayman. We're really in the eastern part of the Caribbean and really the Atlantic for a lot of our trip. So we really were nowhere near where there were. I don't even think we were near where the tsunami warnings were, but it was a big deal. I was getting messages from people, you know, some of the groups that I follow on Facebook were demanding that they turn all the ships around, take them back to port so people would be safe. Turned out to be nothing. But he came on the next morning and when he goes, the ship status is upright and we hope to keep it that way, which is pretty fun. Yeah, we don't have the stair talkers here today. How far behind am I, by the way? Because I don't see the timestamps when I'm on my phone here, unfortunately. We're probably a little ways behind. JG does a great job, doesn't he? JG, that's you, John Gonzalez. I didn't know I could call you by your initials now. You know when you've made it in life when they either call somebody by one name or initials. So JG, now you have now reached a new level of stardom on the internet. Great job, John Gonzalez. And I agree, Paul, spot on 100%. Jags going ass backwards trying to find a GM. It is, again, the Jets did the same thing. And I never understand a team that hires a GM after they hire the quarterback. Unless they're letting the coach pick the quarterback. And supposedly Aaron Glenn had some input there in New York, but I don't know whether. And the guy's name is escaping me at the moment. The hi, whether the what are they setting up in here now? Hope nothing. I didn't see anything in here all week long. So I'll have to find out what's going on. We may have to end early if they're going to put trivia or something going on in here. She might be. Ugh. Kind of. I'll find out in a second. Jags going ass backwards anyway. Yes. So again, the Jags did the same thing, and they still don't have. They fired. If I'm not mistaken, they fired the GM after they hired the coach. Right. Anderson article. Anderson's healthy entering Braves camp in 2025. He also has to prove his work too, because he wasn't really pitching that tremendously when he got hurt. He'd taken a step back from his rookie year. As Drew mentioned on the show or on the MLB update, they'll probably need him early in the year, potentially need him early in the year, or somebody else to step up. But we wish Ian well. He's also the nephew, I think, of one of our loyal followers, John Gonzalez. Stafford's brother-in-law was named the Giants quarterback coach. There you go. His wife said he wants it. Matthew Stafford doesn't strike me as a New York City type guy, but that'll be interesting. I didn't see that comment, but I don't doubt it. John has got his finger on the pulse of the Jets and Giants as he is somebody who works there. Maybe maybe they have a tour getting started here. Why do I always go somewhere where they're going to start a tour? Amazing. Oh God, where was I? Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, John Gonzalez has his finger on the pulse of the Giants and Jets situation as well as anybody that I know, as he works in the facility there. John has worked security at MetLife Stadium. I did actually talk about this at the top. Tom Izzo, one of my favorite college basketball coaches, and he's starting to talk with Louis Carnesecca, by the way. These guys just blow their vocal cords right out. He won his 354th Big Ten game, surpassing Bob Knight's record of 553. That is no small feat, by the way. Love Bob Knight or hate Bob Knight. Bob Knight was one of the best college basketball coaches of all time. In the 3 championships, he had the record of Big Ten victories, and there have been some really good coaches that have come through the Big Ten, by the way. So that's no small feat, and congratulations to Tom Izzo, who's got a really good team this year and a team to watch out for in March. And I'll give you guys, once we get to probably the next college sports huddle that we do, we'll give you guys a value pick for the national championship basketball. Rick had asked me about, I think you'd asked me about football. It's a little too early, but we'll.
The captain is very entertaining, by the way.
What do you say this thing?
Well, he's doing his whole spiel. And he's good.
Yeah, my wife's telling me about the captain's spiel that I couldn't hear because I was talking to you guys, but he was very funny again. Um, so anyway, congrats to Tom Izzo, and we'll give you our college basketball pick.
Scavenger hunt is starting here at 10:30. 2 minutes.
Oh, so they're going to scatter, right?
Yeah, that might
Yeah, okay. Scavenger hunt starting here if anybody's interested in 2 minutes. There's one person right now participating, so he's probably going to be the winner.
You might win.
Actually, they just sent him out to scavenge, looking for more people for the scavenger hunt. That's his first task. Chris, dark day in Canada baseball. On this date, we lost both Gary Carter and Tony Fernandez on the same day. Not the same year though, right? Or is this the same year? Maybe then. Two great players. Gary Carter was a great player with both the Expos and the Mets. Played with the Dodgers later. Tony Fernandez spent some time with New York, but really made his bones with the Blue Jays. Both died way too young at 57. I know Carter had a brain tumor. I don't know. Tony Hernandez, I think, died of some type of cancer as well. Both are enshrined in the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame as they should be, and Gary Carter is a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame here in Cooperstown as well. Tony Fernandez said was a productive player for the Yankees for a year or two. Good one, Chris. These quarterbacks in the draft they certainly are not blue chip for sure. Perhaps late first round, second round, not the top of the draft. Agree 100%. Listen, I've seen Shadur Sanders as low as like 57. So that's the end of the second round. I've seen Kiam Ward as low as 21, I think. So there you go. But that's not where they're going to go, John. Because, again, I got to pull these stats out before the draft again. But the first round draft picks, quarterback wise, since 1967, do not pay out. 8% of them won a Super Bowl. 8%. And that's guys winning multiple Super Bowls. Guys like Bradshaw and Plunkett actually counts there. And he didn't win it with his first team. Of the 8%, not all of them even won with the team they were drafted by. But teams will always reach. And I'm not saying you should never reach when you have a serious quarterback need and the player's right. Right? A Peyton Manning. But for every Peyton Manning, I'm telling you, I'm not sure if I can even do the math, but maybe I'll try and come up with a number here. But I'm going to say for every Peyton Manning, there's 10 Ryan Leafs. Maybe it's more. Guys that don't really pan out. Well, and I don't know whether we want to count the guys who have good careers but never win, or just guys who didn't pan out. I can think. Look at all the guys that got drafted in the top 10 in the last few years. Zach Wilson, nowhere. Josh Fields, really not nowhere, not anywhere. Mac Jones, we know what happened there. The kid San Francisco drafted and later traded. That's just in the last couple of years, guys. If the class 2 years ago was still up, everybody was all Stroud and how great he was. He took a step back this year. How do you know he doesn't continue to regress? We don't know. I'm not saying he will. Bryce Young now is just starting to get going. Jeff George. They're all over. I mean, there's so many I can just keep on going, but I'm not going to. Well, I'm going to try to come up with a number. It's be very difficult. Take a lot of work. But Chris, on the lighter side of things, former Royal sensation Bill Pecota. Sensation might be a bit of hyperbole, but I do remember Bill Pecota being a very productive utility guy. Now collects his retirement pension. But Bill Pecota is 65 today. Oh, I see. Happy birthday, Bill Pecota. Maybe I could track him down. Yes, I would have Bill Pecota on there. He's certainly a name I remember. I've got a few guys in play and girls in play. I probably shouldn't say guys and girls, right? Because I'm making an awful assumption that I shouldn't do. I don't want to offend people. But I have a few people in play for the one-on-one interview show once we get back and get our feet back on the ground. We had a few that we were in contact with before we left, and a few that I was in contact with well before we left and had committed and kind of went dark on me. So we'll get them down, but absolutely try to track them down. Chris, anybody you can track down. I never did get a response back from the CFL player who is a politician up there now and was going to donate his brain for research when he died and whatnot. I never got a reply back from him. I'd love to chat with him, and I'll try your hockey guy again. His name is escaping me right now. Chris something, Chris Snyder maybe. I'll make sure I try to get him with hockey and maybe the Four Nations thing. Probably by the time I get to do another one-on-one, it's probably going to be past that. But yeah, we'll try to reignite all those conversations. Michael, thoughts on the Super Bowl MVP to Jalen? I'm not knocking Jalen, but I agree 100% with his comment. I thought the Philly linemen, multiple guys could have got this. Why always a quarterback? He did run. He didn't throw the ball that great. He did have some big runs and some big plays on third down, kept drives alive, and the Philly offense mostly thrived on the Philly defense, right? They had great field position all day long, and the defense just ate up that Kansas City offensive line. It's funny, Michael, because I've thought this all week and it never happened. It's happened a few times. Chuck Howley, linebacker from Cowboys, won in a losing effort 5 decades ago. And just the Patriots' first trip to the Super Bowl, Richard Dent and somebody else split the MVP on the defensive line. I might have done something like that here. This entire defensive line was tremendous. Carter was great. Sweet was great. Or Sweat. Just all of them. I mean, maybe you just give them the award to all of them because they were tremendous. And I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, you go back to the Patriots for a Super Bowl. Tom Brady wins the MVP, passed for 112 yards and a touchdown. That Patriot defense should have been the MVP. I think it's hard to single out guys on defenses, which might be why. It reminds me, Chris, MLB birthdays over today. Marco Gonzalez, Tommy Malone, Eric Burns, Mike Hubbard, Dwayne Henry, Barry Foote, former Expo, Cub, Yankee, Jerry Harrison, Glenn Abbott, Bob Didier. Bob Didier spent some time. I think he spent some time with the Yankees, and I know he played with the Braves. Terry Crowley, a really good pinch hitter with the Reds and the Orioles, and Bobby Darwin, good player for the Twins back in his day. He was he had a couple of really good years, Bobby Darwin. So happy birthday to all of them. Tony's adjusted salary with the Dodgers, $2 million. That's more what I thought. I mean, so I don't know. Yeah, Drew, I don't know where we get that 70. Because again, that's the way I figure it. I don't have a problem figuring that out that way. But if we're going to do that, then Judge has got to be up there at 60 million, not 42 or whatever it is. His and a bunch of other guys are like $1.4 billion now. Drew, Pacoda and Brett Saberhagen for Greg Jeffries. Did Pacoda go in that Saberhagen deal? I did not know that. Greg Jeffries, Kevin McReynolds, and Keith Miller, 1992. Interesting. Brett Saberhagen we had on here a few months ago on the 101 show. He was a great interview. We had a great conversation. He was a great pitcher, by the way, who had this weird every other year syndrome where he was great and then he was okay. Never awful. And one of his great years, I think, was with the Mets, and he had a really bad year with the Mets. And we talked about some of the things that happened in New York and some of the things that he regretted and whatnot. But he was a great interview. In fact, I got to get back with his wife Candace because she was going to hook me up with a bunch of the board members that they have for Sage Wings. But by the way, is a great organization that we plug from time to time on the show. That Brett and Candace run for children with cancer to help offset some of the um, expense that is not covered by insurance there. And they've done a great job with that. So if you get a chance, look up Save Wings and contribute even $5. And we'll talk a little. I'm not going to be able to pull it up because I'll go off the screen here. So I apologize. Joe LaRussa is going to be running his Jimmy Fund campaign again, which he did last year and raised, I think, 20,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 last year. We promoted it during the show. We'll promote the event that will happen this summer again. I don't have all the details in front of me because I didn't jot them down, but I promised him I would start doing that, especially on the MLB show. Jimmy Fund's a um, great cause. Begun by Ted Williams and some Boston writers back in the 50s, I want to say, maybe the early 60s. Michael, I just don't see Rogers fitting in Tennessee. And again, quite frankly, my gut says Rogers retires. I think if Rogers thought there was going to be this great market for him, he wouldn't have gone to the Jets and said, I'll do the things you want me to do. I'll come to every mandatory camp. I won't go on the Pat McAfee show. I won't do any other outside media. Um, I think if he thought there was going to be this great market or there was someplace else he was burning to play, he probably would have done that. Or he wouldn't. I'm sorry, he wouldn't have, acquiesced to what the Jets demanded from him to even consider coming back. So, Mike gut says he retires, right, to get in the media. That doesn't mean he will. That's just my gut feeling. If he does play, I don't see him playing with a team that doesn't have a chance to win, and I don't see the Titans having a chance to win right now. I could see him going to Seattle. I could see him going to the Raiders, although theoretically, they don't really have a chance either. But it's an established coach. You got Tom Brady involved there. So just sort of some of maybe New Orleans, although that situation is probably not much better than Tennessee's. And Big Mac. I think Kevin McGreynolds looked like he ate a few Big Macs, by the way, in his day. He was a really good hitter for a decent number of years, but his waistline seemed to expand a bit as the season went on. John agrees with me. Mentioned Jalen Brunson. Right? How does Jalen Brunson? I'm not saying he has to win, but how has his name not even come up? You take this guy out of that lineup, and this team is going to be nothing. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns too, but I think Towns' success is really driven by Brunson's success, right? A little surprised at the Knicks' lack of movement at the deadline, by the way, because I really think they need to lengthen that bench. Because come playoff time, they need to be able to. Well, these guys need to get a blow here and there. Come before playoff time. Most Stars hockey games are free on Victory's app and CA. As long as you are in the viewing area. They've added Rangers. Really? You can pay $100 to watch Ranger games. I'm looking to add soccer. I don't know this Victory app. I'll take a look at it. I don't know if it's available up here or not. Yeah, I did mention this. Bobby Jenks. I didn't know he lost his home in a house fire. I did mention at the top that Bobby Jenks was dealing with stomach cancer. Did not realize it was stage 4. It's certainly not good. And they did not know he lost his home in the fires in LA. That's really sad. Cy Young, I think he won a Cy Young award a couple of years ago, didn't he, Drew? I could be wrong, but I think he did. Speaking of California, there's our boy in California, Danny Fuller. How are you, Danny? Good to see you, buddy. And John says Danny's arrived. The Rod Chris has noticed the Rod Beck look has really caught fire with his current generation. Ryan Stanek comes first to mind, but there are certainly more. I think you're talking about kind of it's well, was it a mullet? I don't know if I'd call it a mullet, or is it just like uh, long hair in the back? And that's not. I don't think long hair in the back is always a mullet. My fashion consultant is long hair in the back always a mullet? Could just be long hair. That's what I say. Like Jacob DeGrom has really well had really long hair, but I wouldn't have called that a mullet. And I don't think I would call Rod Beck's look a mullet, which you're not, Chris. I'm trying to show my great fashion sense here. Hopefully you couldn't hear me being laughed at by the peanut gallery here. Just going to reflect in her pay.
What you're saying.
So, well, you guys may not know it, but I used to wear a mullet. It was a wig I wore at Halloween. So anyway, that's interesting thought. Uh, John Gonzalez, hello, Danny. Titans are looking to trade the first overall pick, trade down the draft. I have heard a lot of rumors, and they've been getting louder. And we'll talk a lot more about the draft certainly once I get back in the studio because we're only going to be what? I mean, I guess maybe we're 2 months from the draft, or maybe 7 weeks, but it's going to come upon us really quickly. And the whispers are getting louder that the Titans are looking to trade out of that spot. And I can tell you, if I had one of those first 5 picks and somebody wanted one of those quarterbacks, John, I would trade in a heartbeat. If the Giants are in love with Cam Ward, I'd let them trade up to number one and take some extra draft capital. Same thing with George Sanders. If the team's stupid enough to take him in the top 5, and I'd be trading out of that position and right away. You know, when your teams like the Titans, the Raiders, you need a lot more. I mean, I said this last year with the Patriots, and hopefully in the long run it works out with Drake May. But when you need as many pieces as these teams need, and the Patriots need, then taking a quarterback in the top 5 picks is usually useless. I mean, the guy's going to get the crap beat out of him for 2 or 3 years. I mean, you can turn things around faster today in the NFL. And maybe the Patriots do, but the Titans need a lot. Titans, they need running back help, they need offensive line help, they need defensive help, they just need a quarterback, but you can draft. There are guys you can find later on. And as I've said a gazillion times, I have never been a fan of taking a quarterback in the first, certainly the top 10. And even in the first round, the numbers say it doesn't work out. How long ago was 1967? I went to Perth. I can't do the math. But it's probably 58 years. 8% of the quarterbacks drafted in the first round in 58 years have won a Super Bowl. That doesn't seem like the lottery's almost a better play. Well, not quite. What do we got today? Canada versus Finland at noon. Sweden versus USA tomorrow at 7 p.m. USA, the way I read it this morning in the article I was getting caught up on, CA, is that the U.S. has already played their way into the title game. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I know this is a double elimination tournament. If I've got any of that wrong, let me know. Finland did upset Sweden yesterday, by the way. AAV ignores whether payments are deferred or not, takes in a total contract and divides it by the number of years. Simple and more accurate. Then how is, well, I got to go back then and look at, I have to go back and look at Judge's contract because I believe it's $600 million for 10 years, which would, again, not a math major, would be 60 million. And they should ignore deferred payments, and we have to look at the deferred payments too, because um, I don't think what's going on with the Dodgers is, and I'm sorry, Danny, it's just maybe, and Dan, you can tell me, you can weigh in on this. Uh, they're certainly not the only team ever tries to circumvent rules. I've rooted for some that have done that in the past. Um, and if you can find a loophole, you use that loophole. Um, but I'm just not, and maybe I shouldn't care, because maybe the chickens come home to roost later, and this bites them in the ass 10 years down the road. I just don't think it's great for baseball. I'd love to get your opinion, Danny, because I don't know that we've had that discussion. And again, I'm not saying, when I say this, you guys know how I feel about teams that look to get an edge. If the edge is there to take, you take it. I think you get better value in the draft. McCord is going to be a guy that's a sleeper. I'll tell you right now. Jackson Dart, I've also, who did I hear was in love with him? Might have been the Raiders. But again, I can't see taking Jackson Dart early either. These are guys you should be drafting: McCord, Dart, Ewers, Howard late. Ewers and Howard, I think, are going to be probably third day draft picks. Maybe Howard moved up a bit. Got McCord. Kyle McCord has helped himself a lot. We'll see what happens at the combine, but he helped himself a lot at the Senior Bowl, and he had a really, really good senior year. Needs to cut down the interceptions a little bit, but even those, I think he had the majority. He had 12 interceptions. I want to say he had 10 of them in 2 games. Um, so I do like the value of getting a guy. Listen, they don't come around every day, but I lived through, winning 6 Super Bowls with a guy picked in the 6th round. You don't need to take a guy in the top 10, the top 30 to win Super Bowls. I mean, look at some of the think about some of the quarterbacks that have won the Super Bowl. Nick Foles, don't think he was drafted in the 1st round. Brady, obviously. Jalen Hurts was 2nd round. Of course, Mahomes was. Who else has won recently? Purdy got to a Super Bowl. Oh no, Purdy got hurt. They didn't get to the Super Bowl that year. Jimmy Garoppolo got to a Super Bowl. Winning a Super Bowl. Trent Dilfer didn't win a Super Bowl. Or I'm sorry, wasn't a 1st-round pick. Mark Ripien wasn't a 1st-round pick. Joe Theismann wasn't a 1st-round pick. He's going back a ways now. God, I could probably go on and on. They don't win. And again, even that 8%, and maybe the number should be higher, because there are quarterbacks drafted in the 1st round who have won multiple Super Bowls. 3 quarterbacks selected 1st overall in the NFL draft have won a Super Bowl: Terry Bradshaw, Troy Aikman, Peyton Manning. There's 3 that, and by the way, that still falls into my first round in general. 8%. So there you go. But that's still, so that's since the common draft in 1967. I'm pretty sure that's going to go back to what Billy just put up here. 3 guys in 58 drafts. Otani's 10 deferred payments for age 39 are 68 million. We're going to have a Otani day like we have for Bobby Bonilla. This is going to make Bobby Bonilla day look like nothing. Hopefully Otani has a little bit better numbers to warrant his big paydays after he retires. No, he may not retire at 39. Why would he be playing them? Those 92 Mets were a huge disappointment. Yeah, we talked about those teams. Those Met teams after 88. I mean, that's a team in 86. And John, I'm sure you were a fan. I think you were a Met fan. I think you're a Met fan. Drew is a quasi Met fan. I know he denies the fact that he's a Met fan, but I still call him a quasi Met fan. Those 80, that team in '86 looked like they were geared to be a dynasty. That's how good they were. That's how good that pitching staff was. You had a couple guys up in years and like Hernandez and Carter, but then you were bringing along guys like Jeffries and Kevin Mitchell. You were geared towards um, dynasty, and they got to the playoffs one more year in '88, and still had really good talent in the '90s there, and it didn't work out. I mean, I had Mackie Sasser from those teams on. I've had um, Brett Saberhagen's been on. Kevin Mitchell's been on our show, and we talked about all of that. Nobody can kind of Kevin Mitchell came the closest to his finger on it. He got a lot of the blame for what went on, and he said, "Look around." Oh, but Bob Klapisch wrote a book called the worst team money could buy," I should say, and it's about. I think it might be about that '92 team actually, John. I'm not sure. It's for one of those teams around that era. CA Jeff George can still throw the rock. Yeah, you see I hope that's a laughing emoji. It's hard for me to see on my phone. He can still throw the rock. The problem is that as he did in his career, he'd be throwing it to the other team twice as much as he throws it to his team. Danny, I don't see Rodgers fitting in anywhere today. That's what I said, right? I think he sees that. That's why he was willing to go back to the Jets, even with the stipulations they put on him about, God forbid, you need to show up to mandatory workouts, and we don't want you to go on the Pat McAfee show during the season or do any other outside media. I wouldn't say he's washed up though. I think the problem with listen, he threw 28 touchdowns with like 6 or 7 interceptions last year. It's not like he was god awful. I mean, guys we like to say have made huge comebacks. I mean, those numbers probably don't compare horribly with Sam Darnold. They probably don't. They compare great with Geno Smith, guys that we former Jet quarterbacks we call positive reclamation projects. And by the way, I'm not defending Aaron Rodgers here at all. The problem with Aaron Rodgers is all the stuff that comes along with him. Yeah, it's the stuff that comes along with Aaron Rodgers that's the problem. I wouldn't say washed up. The man can play. I mean, look at he's not the player he was. You watch him play. The eye test says maybe 28-7 is not even as good as what you get on game day when you watch it. I said that about Wilson last year too, and I want to be consistent. But I don't think Aaron Rodgers is totally washed up. I do think Aaron Rodgers and the crap that comes along with him, you don't need around your team. There has been talk. Rams. If you're a Rams team, do you really want to bring Aaron Rodgers into that group? I don't know. Some young guys there. I, I don't know. I don't know. The problem with the Raiders is, I mean, I can't see Aaron Rodgers wanting to play with a team he doesn't think can win. That's why I eliminate the Titans. I'd leave the Raiders in a little bit because again, do you think the Raiders right now are any better position to win than the Titans? I don't. Now they do have a better established coach. I love Pete Carroll. They have Tom Brady more involved in the day-to-day operations. Um, Rams, I don't know. I'm sure Danny doesn't want him out there. John Gonzalez Ramex did back in the day. Oh my God. Danny, how bad was Joe Namath when he got to the Rams? So did he play more than 2 games, 2 regular season games? I remember watching him in the preseason. He was terrible. I recently watched what I feel was either the first or second regular season game of that season with the Rams, and I don't remember who they played. But Namath was just a shell of himself. And at his best, Joe Namath was. I know this is probably going to sound awful to Jet fans, but Joe Namath might be the most overrated quarterback in the history of pro football. Just saying. I mean, he did win the most important game in NFL history. That's why he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But people talk about, Eli Manning not getting in. I mean, you compare Eli's career and Joe Namath's career and tell me who had a better career as far as playing football. Now, Joe Namath won the most important game in pro football history. I'll give him a pass and put him in the Hall of Fame for that. But and Joe Namath, again, injuries, yes, but still, it's part of the game. And I still think he's gotten more out of one game than anybody in the history of sports. Judge's contract is 9 years for 360. Doesn't sound right to me. I could be wrong. I suppose I could be wrong. No, I'll take your word for it. No dance videos this year. I have not. No, it's a little different vibe. We're on Celebrity, and we don't have quite the opportunity. Although most of the people that I've seen, doing the dance are probably 20 years older than me. So it's a much different, laid back feel here, which I like a lot. It's been a lot of fun. I love the ship. Showers are bigger. The rooms, I think, are bigger. I don't think they're bigger. They lay them out differently. I have a little problem with lack of, storage space in the rooms. That's probably the biggest issue I have. But like everything, there's pros and cons. I really enjoyed this ship a lot. But no dance videos, Rick. Sorry. I can make one. I can do one today. Get a few things going. I could do one of me today. I can just do one, right? I've got some good shows too. Abdul Carter is declared number one. Anthony's with us today. I agree 100%. He's the best player in the draft. Whether he'll be number one, I don't know. I can tell you this: that the Patriots would love for Carter to fall to them. They would love to see Carter or Travis Hunter fall to them. I think it's unlikely either one of them do, and I don't see them trading up. So they'll probably pick an offensive lineman at their spot. But let's see. Remember seeing me with a mullet in the movie Fast. Oh my god. Oh my god. I turned into Mr. Hand. I wonder what I'm gonna have to put a mullet on just to see what I would look like with a mullet. Listen, John, we don't get a lot of references to Fast Times at Ridgemont High in the show, so I think that's very impressive all by itself. Well done, my friend. Yes, I thought they were in the final already. Thank you for confirming that, Danny. We wish them well. I think it's possible. I still think we might get a Canada rematch. I think that would be awesome for hockey. I think this whole tournament is awesome for hockey. The fact that we don't have to worry about an all-star game, an all-star weekend. Maybe I don't know. Maybe NBA needs to do the same kind of thing. You got enough nations covered, don't you? I mean, have a U.S. I guess you can't just do it U.S. and Europe, but I don't know. There's got to be options to play different things, do different things through your all-star weekend than what you're doing. It's terrible. Pro football, there's nothing you can do. Just don't do anything would be probably the thing to do. MLB, I think every 4 years you could play. You could play the baseball WBC. You could play during the All-Star break. We'll make it 2 weeks every 4 years. That's hard. I guess that's hard. It's a longer season. Or I think about that. That's hard. There's a guy over there talking to himself. I hope there's somebody in that chair. Of course, I'm here talking to myself. As far as anybody else can see, I'm here talking to myself, I guess. What was I saying? Oh, the WBC. I love it. I know a lot of people don't. I think these international tournaments in sports are the cat's ass. I love them. I love the World Cup in soccer. It's the only time I watch soccer. I love when they play a World Cup type thing or the Four Nations deal they're doing this year in hockey. I love the WBC. You're worried about your players getting hurt. They don't want to go play for their country. Then don't go. Don't go. And if you don't want to play for your country, I probably won't ever root for you again. There. Of course, some of these guys, who knows what they want. You just want Rogers to go away. Here's a problem, though, Paul. Rogers isn't going away. Problem is, if when he retires, somebody is going to gobble him up to be on TV in one form or another. So you're going to see more of him probably than you are now. At one time, he really was trying to line himself up. If you remember when Alex Trebek passed away, Jeopardy went for, I don't know, a year, 6 months, a year. I don't know how long it was. It felt like forever. It was rotating hosts before they finally figured out they had the right guy under their nose the whole time. Ken Jennings, who's been tremendous, by the way, if you're a Jeopardy fan. But they rotated out, and Rogers did one of the 2 week stints. And he was really good. I thought he was really good. But he thought he was going to parlay that into the full time gig. I don't think that was ever happening. I probably would stop watching Jeopardy. If Otani plays or not in 10 years, I'm guessing his pay will be about the middle of the pack where the salaries are rising. The way the salaries are rising. MLB is headed in a whole different direction. A strike will definitely happen. I agree. And I think, when is when's the next, the basic agreement either expires next year? I think it's not next year. It's 27 or 28, I think. We're looking down the barrel of a strike for sure. I see very little chance there won't be a strike. There you go. 92 Mets considered the worst team money can buy. The book was written by, I want to say, Bob Flatfish. You can look it up. I think he wrote for might have been the New Jersey paper. Well, for some of the New York papers through the years, too. I talked to somebody about this recently on the one-on-one show. I don't know who it was. But worst team money can buy. Kevin Bass, Bobby Bonilla, Saberhagen, Eddie Murray, Vince Coleman, and of course Anthony Young. That's where making some really bad choices there. They brought Mo Vaughn in one year, remember? That might have been 10 years later, but they could not. They were trying to repeat what the Yankees did in the 70s. It didn't work for the Yankees necessarily either, by the way. It worked for 3 years. And then in the mid 80s, late 80s, they were awful. Well, part of those years they weren't awful. When they got to the late 80s, early 90s, team was terrible because, again, we kept doing the same thing, trying to buy players. Mets tried it here. They made some smart trades. They made, in 86, they made a couple. The kids that were their kids were what was driving this team, though. They made some smart trades for Hernandez and for Carter. Who else was on that team they brought in? Tim Tuffle they brought in. Maybe a couple guys in that bullpen. But look at the core of that team, homegrown. Strawberry, Gooden, Darlin. Bobby Ojeda came from the Red Sox, another import. Kevin Mitchell, Mookie Wilson, Kevin Ralph Santana, whichever one. 86, I think Santana might have still been playing, right? Ray Knight was an addition through trades, but they weren't making a lot of free agent moves that were crazy. Some of those could have been free agent guys, but bulk of the guys I'm thinking about, they were traded for. Bill Palmer, who is a Jet fan, he does not agree or does not disagree Joe was overrated athletically, but he was there when it happened. No, I agree. Listen, here's my thing, and Joe Namath's a guy I have to talk out of both sides of my mouth. It's impossible not to for me. He's very important to the NFL because of who he was at that time, the fact that he guaranteed a victory, the fact that they went out and actually won. Which, by the way, guys, scripting football and fixes are not new. Those types of conversations, sorry, I made it sound like I think those are happening. They're not happening. But the crazy people thinking that games are fixed is not new. There's a ton of people old enough who will tell you that they still believe that the Jet Baltimore Super Bowl, the fix was it. It's more likely to have been in there than anywhere else because that game was the most important game played in the NFL history. It stays that way. Um, but overall, his career was just ordinary. Yeah, he threw first guy to throw for 4,000 yards in a season in the AFL. Great, but he threw more interceptions than touchdowns. He completed less than 50% of his passes over his career. And the game was different then. I get it. Joe Namath couldn't play in today's NFL. Who's ever the lone sleeper pick for this year's MLB season? Lots of bounce back choices. Uh, Chris, please don't put Gallo in this conversation. He is not a bounce back chick. Uh, I almost threw my phone. Gallo is not a bounce back opportunity. Drury, maybe. I love Andujar, but he's had 10 chances, man. Got hurt last year, right? I could see him having a Geronimo Barrera type season in Oakland. That's possible. I like Andujar a lot, and I rooted for him to kind of come back. Injuries have set him back. Bad play has set him back. Um, his own limitations have set him back. Um, I'm okay using that guy more than. And Drury's had recently decent years. Gallo, I'm not going to ever put there because I don't think Gallo was ever that good a player. He had home runs in a place where it was, I think, easier to hit home runs, and he just has never had anything but home run power to stake a claim to his talent. Everything. Trying to think of some other guys off the top of my head, but we'll have this conversation soon. Usually, what Drew and I do when we do the baseball preview show, Chris, which we'll do in a month or so, is pick some guys that we think can bounce back. I don't think Gallo's going to be on my list. I won't speak for Drew. Actually, there's a couple guys in Toronto. I think, and by the way, I mean they didn't fall into the depths of somewhere these guys are. But Bo Bichette didn't have a great year last year. I think he's a great comeback candidate. Um, I think, listen, and this will sound crazy, DJ LeMahieu may be a guy. You don't know. I just got a feeling. I know we're up there. The injury excuse is used up. It's starting to look like he's too old, but they put him in third base and maybe even in a partly platoon situation over there, not having to play 150 games, maybe plays 110, 20 games. I think you might see a more productive DJ over there. Next, Alvarez, the catcher, another great candidate for a comeback, I think. Just thinking locally here. So again, there's a lot of guys we'll talk about. I would love to see Miguel Andujar have a comeback for sure. Namath had 9 knee surgeries by the time he got to the Rams. So I disagree. He had a cannon for an arm. Well, again, cannon. So did who's the other guy I brought up earlier? The nut job with the mullet. Can't think of his name now all of a sudden. Isn't that terrible? Just talked about him. Injuries played a part in Namath's career. He had a great arm. The fact remains he completed less than 50% of his passes, and he threw more interceptions than touchdowns. Played some great games. He was very efficient in that Super Bowl. Was he the MVP? I don't even think he was the MVP in that game. I'm not sure. I don't think he was. His numbers weren't jump off the chart even then when he was still fairly healthy. He was a very good, he was a very good running quarterback at Alabama. Just talked to Richard Todd about that situation, him replacing Joe in two different places. And listen, Joe was a celebrity and a great ambassador for the game, and he made a great career out of, being Joe Namath. I just don't think he's one of the greatest quarterbacks ever to touch the ball. Remember one game they touched. I remember that game very well. If I'm not mistaken, Unitas also had a huge game. You can correct me if I'm wrong, John. But I think Unitas also had a huge game, threw like 472 yards or something like that, and 4 touchdowns. It was some crazy number. If it's the same game I'm thinking of, help me out if you're right. But there's an argument to be made for Namath. This is just my own personal feeling. And again, I do say can't put everything in the numbers, right? But I look at guys who bash Eli, and Eli beat the best team in football twice in the Super Bowl. Led to iconic drives. And Joe Namath won the most important game in NFL history. I can put and Eli's regular season numbers compare very favorably with Namath and with Bradshaw. The game's different, I get it. Now you got to complete 70% of your passes to be considered any good. But even back in Namath's day, completing 49% of your passes was not good. Yeah, cannon for an arm. He had some huge games. I said he had some huge games, and I had that Colts game in my head. It was a great shootout. I hope you comment again, John, about this game specifically. Because I think Johnny Unitas had a great game there, too. And I get it. We're Jet fans, we're going to stick up for Namath. I get it. I don't think he was horrible. For the time he played, he was good. He'd have a lot of trouble today, though, John, I think. Maybe he wouldn't. Again, the rules for hitting quarterbacks are different, for sure. Again, he'd get crap kicked out of him. That did Tom Brady, by the way. I can show you some pictures of him getting video of him getting creamed. But it's fair. You can stick up for Namath. I gotta tell you something funny. Oh God. I'll do it. I'm not gonna stand up though, I'm gonna do it sitting down. Well, let me see if I can do it and tell me how good I do. I gotta see if I can find the jingle. I don't know, does it work with the jingle or not? Hold on.
Keith Engle, the guy with the sports talk show. On the internet, he's the guy that we all know. If you love your sports, he's the guy for you. He has lots of shows on Roku.
See, I can't
Keith,
play again. I'm sorry. You can't see me because the logo comes up. The video comes up in front of me. I can. The best I can do. Listen, I'll tell you a funny story. Oh my God, did I lose where I was now? I'll get back to your stuff here in a second. I gotta get back here. Oh God, where the hell did I go? Oh, we got a lot of guys here falling behind. I guess I can't take too long with a story. It's not hard to tell my political leanings, right? I'm not a Trumpster. I am a conservative Republican. But I watch Bill Maher, who's again very liberal, but also moved much more to the center in recent years. By the way, because he's for a lot of what Trump's doing, and but he still has a lot of liberals on his show more than he does conservatives. But I love Bill Maher because to be funny is always fun. But through the whole campaign, I don't know if you watch real time, then you've seen this, but he'll show videos of Trump doing his little thing He'd always go something. He'd get some line about how some line about how it always because it looks like Trump is like jerking off two guys at once. Oh god! And he would play it every week. It's funnier than hell. Bill Maher's very very funny. Again, we don't lean the same way, but he's starting to lean my way more. Um, Bounce back player Grayson here, Rodriguez, good one. You let play the regular rules. Name it. By the way, first of all, Brady played the first half, almost all his career. Well, the first half to three quarters of his career with the rules, almost the same as what Namath played. I don't disagree, by the way. The game's much different. But I can show you some video of Brady getting killed with no penalties being called because there weren't none to be called. If Brady played with the rules the way they are today, his entire career, his numbers would be even better. But I don't disagree that Joe Namath would have probably had better. By the way, you're wrong about that. Tom Brady, you need to watch some Tom Brady. And I know this is a button pushing moment, Billy, and that's fine. But you really need to go back and watch some games of Tom Brady play and watch some of the shots Tom Brady took. And Tom Brady missed all of 16 games in his career because the first series of the 2008 season, Bernard Pollard took out his knee. And that's really the only games he ever missed due to injury. So, and he got killed a lot. I'll show you some stuff of him running where he just gets his head taken off and all he does is bounce back up. So you people who don't think Tom Brady's tough, you don't know what you're talking about, number one. And I indulge it only because button pushing is part of what we do on the show. And trying to get a piece get is part of what we like to do. So I allow it. But really, anybody, and I mean this for you, Bill, not just for you, Billy, but I mean for anybody who's watching this or watches it later. We got a really good live crew right now on Facebook. We got a really good live crew on YouTube, and not YouTube so much, but Twitter. I don't see the Roku numbers, but I'm sure we're doing well there. I'll tell anybody this. Anybody who doesn't think Tom Brady was tough absolutely does not know what they're talking about. 100%. And I won't debate it. Now, that said, if Namath played with the rules, and forget about Brady. Forget about Brady. You didn't need to make this about Brady. You decided to do that to push my buttons, and I get that. That's fair. Throw Brady out of it. Just say if Namath played with the rules that are in play today, which by the way Tom Brady doesn't play under. He only did the last 5, 6, 7 years of his career. Joe Namath would be much better because he couldn't get creamed the way that he does. Well, actually, you could. Because Joe Namath didn't do a lot of running around. In the pocket, you can still get hit. But he did get hit after he threw the football. The game was just different. Watch NFL films. The game was different. I get it. I think I said that as well, by the way. So I'm trying I'm trying to be fair to Tom or to what's behind that? I wonder if I can open up that. I wonder if I could have opened up those doors and got windows here. Sorry, got distracted. I tried to be fair. I tried to be fair to Namath. I give him his due. He played one of the most important game in NFL history after guaranteeing he would do so. We got to wrap this up in a couple of minutes. And at the same time, if I don't get to some of your comments, guys, I apologize. I'm going to try to go quicker here because I know there's a lot here yet, and I don't really want to go long. Rodgers isn't going away. He's going to get paid, Danny. His money's guaranteed. They released him. He didn't retire. He's getting paid no matter what for at least this year. At least this year. He wanted to come back for the next 2 years with the Jets. So maybe next year's not guaranteed. I don't know. He's going to get that from the freaking networks. He'll get $30 million because there's somebody dumb enough to pay him. Nobody wants to listen to what he's got to say. I don't want to listen to what Brady's got to say. Maybe the Phillies, Jordan Romano, now that he's left you from Toronto, maybe. Namath was a way better athlete than in college. By the time he got to the pros, no, he wasn't. He was one of the best ever at Alabama. Listen, I'm talking about pro quarterbacks, number one. Again, John, remember, I always do this. There's a difference to me between college and pros. There's a lot of great college quarterbacks who are no good in the pros. Tim Tebow is one of the best college football players of all time. Better than Joe Namath, by the way. I mean, he just sacrifices me. I'm not. Again, I feel bad now that I said he's. Well, I don't feel bad, but he's one of the most overrated quarterbacks in NFL history. It doesn't mean he wasn't any good, and it doesn't mean he wasn't important to the NFL. And I know he's important to Jet fans. I get it. I get it. Clemens had 5 boys that all had names that started with a K. Didn't know that. Somebody's playing with the Phillies right now too, and been in the majors, right? Yeah, Cody. I think it is Cody. You're right. I don't know what that one is. Chrissy Toglia, Calo. I see. I don't know who that is. I didn't hear Keith say Namath couldn't play today. I didn't. I didn't say that. I did say it. I did say Namath would. I don't think he could. Well, again, I do have to amend it because of the rules changing. He probably could play. No, I did say it. That was probably more of an emotional reaction than anything else. He'd get a chance, but the game's different. Again, a Joe Namath right out of Alabama, healthy with good knees, could play today. I don't think Joe Namath, who played in 1972 and three in New York, could play today. No, I don't think that. I think Joe Namath in his prime and coming out of Alabama, as John Gonzalez said, and Joe Namath in '67 with the Jets when he threw for 4,007 yards. I think it was 67. And maybe even Joe Namath in that Super Bowl year could play today. Joe Namath is 72, 73, 74 of the Rams. No, he couldn't play today. He just couldn't. DJ is not worth his contract. Who's DJ? DJ. Now, again, remember, there's a difference between worth and earn. If you're not earning, you're worth whatever somebody's willing to pay. Oh, we got 8 minutes left. I forgot to start a little late. We still got time to get through some of these, I think. 7 minutes. Who are we talking about? DJ. I know who we're talking about. And whoever we're talking about, remember, there's a difference between worth and earn in my mind. Just me. You're worth whatever somebody's willing to pay. Somebody wants to pay somebody $100 million. That's great. Whether they earn it is a different story. Not sure Tagulia qualifies as a bad bounce back candidate. Since he was just a rookie last year and didn't suffer any downturn except for his own plate discipline deficiencies, I think he probably qualifies. So, Drew, I mean, if he played and, whether you were a rookie or not, I get your point. You didn't have anything to bounce back to other than your potential. I would still say that. I like the guy for your team, Drew. I like Alvarez as a potential bounce back time. Namath had no offensive line after Maynard left. Well, I didn't think I'd just stir up this much emotion about Joe Namath. It's all good. Eddie Bell was underrated, by the way. The Jets traded Riggins. He had no weapons. Emerson Boozer was pretty good. Matt Snell was pretty good. They weren't John Riggins. They get that. He also had Ed Marinero. I've been trying to get Ed Marinero on the show. Anybody can help me out. Help me out. I'm not backing off. I think Namath played an important part in the NFL. He's not one of the top quarterbacks of all time. That's all. No, due to international broadcasting rules, I don't think I'll be able to share it tonight or going forward if I go over. But we go over, we go over. I also got to find my wife since it's already 11:30 here. So we'll see how we're doing here. There's JB from Back It Up Binge Podcast. How are you, buddy? Sorry you missed the time. JB, text JB stuff on YouTube. Just some good stuff for sure. Started doing some interviewing, I believe, if I remember what you told me recently. Real quick, welcome to the show. We got a lot of people joining late here. Who should be the Jets' target? I don't think Trevor Lawrence. I don't think they're going to target Trevor Lawrence real quick. Are you a Jet fan? I take it. Are you going to beat me up about my Joe Namath comments as well? That's all right. That's what this show's for. I may go along. If I'm the Jets, here's what I'd do if I'm the Jets. I'm not relying on Tyrod Taylor. I might bring in Josh Fields as a bridge and draft and try to get myself Kyle McCord. Some of the guys that John Gonzalez mentioned earlier, not all of them. I think Quinn Ewers is going to have some potential. We need to sit for a little bit. I think McCord too. I think McCord is maybe a good value pick, third, fourth round. But welcome to the show, real quick, and we're glad to have you. Hope you're following. Please follow the show and join us. Check is in the mail. See, John, here's the thing, though, Johnny. Here's the thing, Billy Pulver. John passionately believes what he's telling me and is arguing with me legitimately. You are just trying to push my buttons. There's two different things here. John Gonzalez, the Redskins thank the Jets for the diesel. What he was a great player, underrated player. Another guy I tried to get on the one-on-one interview show and hadn't been able to do it. Great player. Why do we think he could play? Yes, I agree because the rules are different for defensive backs. Everything's different. I agree 100%. I'm talking more physically. Again, so I guess we're saying if we're saying that Joe Namath comes out of Alabama and he's the quarterback he was with the Jets in his first 3 or 4 years, right? And before his knees really were, both knees were gone, as John said, 9 knee surgeries before he got to the Rams. And he's never going to have the injuries that he had, but that's different. Again, I guess it's impossible to compare the eras, right? We said this before. And I guess my biggest mistake here would be trying to compare the eras because the game was different. We didn't try to. Passing wasn't as relevant. You could hold guys, you could tackle guys in the secondary, you could beat the crap out of guys. You could do whatever you want. So again, could he play? Again, assuming he never got the injuries for sure. A long time Jets. That's all good, real quick. Glad to have you with us. I hope you follow us. This Sunday show is, literally a stream of consciousness. We're all over the place. We've gotten on to Joe Namath here today. What am I doing? That just blew. Look at all these little notes I made, right? I haven't touched on her any of these. We got talking about Joe Namath. Everybody's numbers would suffer in the 70s. I'm not saying that the numbers would all be the same. Namath or Brady and Montana and Mahomes would find a way to play in those. Maybe not Mahomes. I don't know. The game was different, and players adapt to what they have. And again, maybe I'm selling Namath to this athleticism short because, again, as I came into my sports awakening, Joe Namath was not an athlete at all. He couldn't get out of his own way. Did have some great games. I watched that game John referred to with the Colts, and again, I think United's also had a huge day, and he was probably about 80 years old at that point in time. Joe's hologram is one of the favorite exhibits at the Hall of Fame. That's good. Billy Pulver, the February ditch, definitely. Now we're over anyway, so I don't care if we go a little longer. Since I'm over, I'm over. 8 seconds over is as good as, 20 minutes over. We're not going to go 20 minutes. We can go a few more minutes. John says, as the story goes, Joe Namath, yes, I will tell you a funny story. As the story goes, Joe Namath sold his soul to the devil to win the Super Bowl. To this day, the devil has kept up his end of the bargain, and the Jets have been terrible. I have. I'll try not to identify them. Some people, well, someone might know who they are. I have two very close people to me that are Jet fans, married couple, and they are waiting for Joe Namath to die for exactly what you're saying here, which I think is kind of harsh, but they're certain that he sold his soul to the devil, and as long as he's alive, they'll never win again. And I guess there's some, as you say, John, there's some evidence to to back that up. Listen, I got so far down this Namath road, I have no idea how I got here. Um, I will say again, I think Joe Namath was very important to the world of the NFL, and the where the NFL is today is partly in due to guys like, well, Joe Namath specifically winning that Super Bowl, the Jets winning that Super Bowl. I don't say Joe Namath wasn't a very good player. I just think he is one of the most overrated players in the NFL. I did say the most overrated quarterback in the history of the NFL. Maybe I'll stick with that. I don't know. Was he the MVP? Again, should he have been the MVP? I'm telling you, Brady shouldn't. We talked about this earlier, Danny. I'm not sure if you were here yet. We'll talk about it now, real quick. It came up, I think, from across the river, across the sea, and across the pond over in the UK, that Hurts should have won the MVP in the Super Bowl, and I 100% agree. It should have been part of that defensive line, if not all of them. I thought the Patriots defense in some way should have been the MVP of their first Super Bowl, not Tom Brady, who threw for 112 yards. And I think it's possible that maybe the Jets defense deserved to have a defensive winner on that Super Bowl III team. Because if I remember right, Namath only threw for like 167 yards and a touchdown. I'm going to guess that. Here's how I'm going to guess that. And I can't see anything. I have no monitors. I have nothing. You guys. 17 for 26 isn't terrible. For 167 yards and a touchdown. Tell me if I'm right. Danny, look it up. Somebody look it up quick. We're going to go a few minutes more. Because John's got a trivia question for me. Why? Quarterbacks always win. Quarterbacks shouldn't always win. As I said, Richard Dent and I wish I could remember, maybe it was Steve McMichael, who's doing really poorly right now with ALS. Here's a trivia question. Whom originally drafted Joe Namath? I do know the answer to this, even though that Danny's already got it up here. I do know that it was the St. Louis Cardinals. That was the NFL team that drafted him. And I believe I read a story. I was reading it. I don't know what it was. I think it was there was a book all about New York sports in the 70s. And Namath obviously was a big part of that. Late 60s into the 70s. I wish I could remember the name of the book. It was really good. Followed politics and the sports world. God, I wish I could remember that book. It was really, really good. But it talked about this and why he didn't sign with the Cardinals. He wanted to play in New York, I think, because of the commercial opportunities, but the Cardinals offered him a lot of money, from what I understand. I was 5. Could be wrong. Oh, I don't know about the 14 rushing yards. Help me out, John. I say 17 to 26 for 167 yards. I don't think he threw for 200. I can't look it up because if I do, I'm going to lose the thing. I got my phone here. I don't have any extra stuff here, so somebody can help me out. Quick note, quick note for yeah, really good job today, guys. I love this. I love this debate, John. This is great. That's what I love about this show is having fun and debating stuff like this. I mean, look, if I was a Jet fan, I would certainly argue with me up and down about Joe Namath. Same way I get in arguments about Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. I'm never going to lose. Uh, not stand my ground there. But you know, again, Namath was a fine player. I think he was overrated. That's all. And somebody find me those stats. Come on, John, you can do it for me. Look up the stats quickly for Super Bowl III. Can't be that hard. I said 16 to 27, 167, and a touchdown. I did know about the 14 rushing yards. Let's see how well my memory holds up. Usually not very good. Coming up this week, guys, again, a little bit, we'll be back at home Tuesday, but Wednesday we will not have college sports huddle unless for some reason I'm not out to dinner with people in town for work. As I get back, I've got to get into the office for 3 days this week with some stuff visitors from out of town. And on Friday we will not have. We'll have another encore interview at 9 o'clock, and we'll probably do an MLB update at 4 or 3 o'clock Friday, so we can catch up on all the baseball stuff and figure out what I don't know about Judge's contract. Namath was a feared quarterback in his. I don't disagree. I remember Lombardi, a Hall of Famer, saying he always feared 206 yards. I was right. I was wrong. I was right and I was wrong. Well, it's close to being right. Anyway, always feared Namath's arm, afraid to get deep, deep. That arm was legendary. Listen, he had a great arm. I'm certainly not saying that. And I'm also not discounting the fact that injuries played into the fact that I don't think Joe Namath ever reached the status of some other guys in the NFL. I mean, I could look back at that era and find a bunch of guys with very similar stats, but they didn't have the charisma of Joe Namath. There's a word, gravitas of Joe Namath. They didn't have the huge Super Bowl win that changed everything in the NFL. So again, he's an important, very important to the history of the NFL. I've said that all along. I've never said that. He belongs in the Hall of Fame just because of that game. 17 to 28 for 206. All right, that's better than I thought. I don't know why I had 167 in my head. I don't know why. Keith, 20 greatest moments in New York sports history or the breaks of the game. What are we talking about? We talking about that Super Bowl? Oh, well, the top 10, top 5 moments in New York history, probably that Super Bowl. That'd be my guess. The breaks of the game, I don't know. Great book, by the way, by David Halberstam, Breaks of the Game. I don't think that's what you're talking about. And John, stick with me for a minute because I do want to get some clarification before I go on that comment. So when you say 20 greatest moments in New York history, you're talking about the Super Bowl and or just the breaks of the game, saying it's, or again, breaks of the game would be the history of Joe Namath's career. what could have been without the injuries. I agree. He would have been a much better player. You have a great weekend too. Well, I'll be back in a couple days. Yes, the book I read. I didn't read the whole thing. There was a lot of pictures. Actually, there's no pictures, I don't think. It's a great book, by the way. Breaks the Game covers the 1977 Portland Trailblazers championship and the aftermath. Basically, that team fell apart from injuries to Walton and dissent amongst the team contract wise. And it's really, really a good book. If you like sports books, if you like the NBA, even if you don't like the NBA, it's an interesting read. David Halverson wrote some good, really good sports books for sure. So I do want to get some feedback from Dan. Oh, that is Danny. Sorry, I thought that was John. Danny, 20 greatest moments in. So you're talking about the history? Thank you, Billy. We had fun. I love busting your balls. You busted my balls. I had a lot of fun with. Listen, that's part of this show, guys. Is getting it, is riding each other and having some fun with it, man. This is, I, this is always going to be my favorite show, and that won't change. And taking it and giving it, never going to change either. So, thank you, Billy, for being you. I'm still waiting. I think you already said that. I will be loving the cold. I got a big clump of ice, it looks like, in the front porch I got it rid of. So I'm waiting for Danny to try to give me a little more input here. I'm going to wait another minute or so, then I'm going to sign off. Danny. Hopefully, feed was good all day today, guys. But I want to know whether the Super Bowl, now the breaks of the game, I don't quite understand. I will say this about the breaks of the game, that Namath's career and the way I feel about it is due to the breaks of the game. Joe Namath didn't do anything to diminish his career. I think all things being equal, if he hadn't been hurt the way he was, he would be one of the top 10 quarterbacks of all time. But he's not, because I can't just pretend it didn't happen. And again, but comparing years is really hard, and I get it. Listen, I'll say once again, if I was a Jet fan, I would defend Joe Namath to my last breath. Same way I do my guys. What we got here, John? I'm still waiting to see if Danny replies. If he doesn't, we'll probably wrap it up after this. When Namath picked the AFL over the NFL in 1965, he put the AFL on the map. I agree 100%. Then being heavily. So again, that's the side of my argument that's pro Namath is mostly the fact that he is one of the most important figures in NFL history. I'm not ever going to deny that. I just don't think he's one of the top 10 or even 20 probably quarterbacks in NFL history. What was the first one? Oh, the 2 books you thought I read? Well, you're right about breaks of the game. Danny making a move for February now too, Rick. Oh, Danny, I love it. You are the man, I'll tell you. Hopefully we're still going well for you guys. I'm gonna wrap it up, guys. You guys have a great weekend. Thanks. It's been fun doing the 2 shows from here. Sorry we didn't do any of the shows during the week. It's just too hard. And when the ship's at sea at night, find a place to do it and whatnot. So we'll catch you guys on the backside. I'll see you when we're back in the studio here later this week. Keep you abreast of what's going on. Keith Engle for TGI Sports Talk Sunday, Stream of Consciousness. Have a great day, guys.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
You're listening to Keith Engle. the host of TGI Sports Talk on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel.